film fanatics.
Crazy! It's crazy.
The nuts about that.
Now, the Houston Film Fanatics.
This is Ray with the Houston Film Fanatics, and today we are talking with Clay Liford, the writer and director of the new coming-of-age comedy, Slash.
Hello. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I just had to have you on speaker because my phone is charging in some weird spot right now. So.
No, it is all good. Hey, I appreciate you taking some time to talk with us today.
My pleasure.
Could you tell our listeners a little bit about your film, Slash? You're the writer-director, so what can you tell everybody about it?
Well, Slash is about two teenagers who write erotic fan fiction on the internet and kind of get a little bit of notoriety for it. And even though they're kind of societally considered probably too young to do this, end up traveling to a comic convention to basically present their Slash in front of an audience and kind of the hijinks that ensue from there.
Well, I had a chance to check out the movie. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it was really cool getting to see some of the shots from Houston here in the film. I really liked that. You directed it, you wrote it. Where did you get the idea for this?
I've been going to conventions since I was, 10 years old. Growing up in Dallas, my dad used to take me and drop me off with some money into my pocket, and I just wander around for hours. So again, this is kind of in the, pre, San Diego being as big as it is kind of days. So, these conventions would take place in, the, sub-levels of Armada Inn. But there would always be this one 18-up room that I was obviously too young to go into, but I was always fascinated by what could be going on beyond those doors. And it was only years later that I discovered a lot of the stuff that pertains to more adult sections of fandom, including Slash fiction. And so years later, I was just looking. I was thinking about I've been making movies about high school for a while. My last movie was about a high school teacher, and I kind of wanted to do something that's more for my youth and being kind of in fandom and afraid to talk about it. But now it's just a weird thing because the things that I was kind of, afraid to talk about in fandom, like being a Star Trek nerd, it's not a big deal anymore at all. I mean, J.J. Abrams has completely taken Star Trek and made it accessible by frat boys. So and I always thought that would be that would be the last. That's the last stand. That's the Alamo of fandom. There's no way that you can take Star Trek and make it mainstream. But I was wrong. So in wanting to examine kind of my feelings about the community that builds up around fandom, I had to find a deeper metaphor. I had to dig deeper, and I was kind of reminded myself of erotic fan fiction and fanfic in general, which is still very misunderstood by the mainstream. And it's kind of that it really truly is the Alamo of fandom. It's the last stand. It's the last outpost where it's not been co-opted by mainstream culture. And which is weird because now, even recently, since the time we've made the movie, there's been an attempt to make it more respectable, I guess. And I put quotes around that by the mainstream. Yeah, you have showrunners on TV shows who are trolling their own fans and dropping little hints about fandom in there because they know that this is a segment that digests their media. So yeah, it's crazy how the world is changing. But yeah, that's the longest way to get to the point of I was looking for a metaphor that kind of encompassed my own feelings about the community built around fandom when I was a teenager.
Well, I totally get what you mean about all of this slowly becoming mainstream, and I think it's great because it's also bringing a whole new set of fans into this type of stuff, into Comic-Cons, into all these little things that were so niche before and so many people were kind of given a hard time about before, and bringing a lot of that to light and kind of making it cool. And even when you've got stories as on the fence as so many people are with things like 50 Shades of Grey, that was basically started out as Twilight fan fiction and stuff like that. It's really interesting that all of this stuff is kind of rising to the surface and coming to light and just really being something that's in everybody's home now.
I highly respect the fact that most people within Slash fandom in general have nothing but disdain for 50 Shades of Grey, which I find very heartening because it's the worst. It really is the worst. No, it's funny because I seriously, I'm old enough that I came from a generation that I would hide a copy of Starlog magazine inside of a National Geographic in fear of being made fun of. So, in those days are so over.
Now, you filmed part of the movie here in Houston at Comicpalooza. Was it last year?
Yeah, it was almost year to the day. Yeah, we were just reminiscing about that. Yeah, it was during our torrential rainstorms this year. It was the torrential rainstorms last year that we were. I remember driving to Comicpalooza with our cast in the car. It was rain coming horizontally. The wind and the rain was so strong, we were like, "Oh, I think we're gonna die." It was just this horizontal rain hitting us, and the defroster in the car being broken. It was the picture car, and the picture car, meaning the car that was actually the car used by the characters in the movie, was not necessarily in the best shape.
Was there a reason that out of all the cons that take place in Texas, because there are quite a few, that you guys decided to go with Comicpalooza to be your backdrop?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was, it's kind of like I was trying to check a couple of different boxes because I was looking for a way, I wanted something that was big, but also not so big that it encompasses like what you would see in San Diego now. I mean, like, Comicpalooza is big. It's big. It was just, no bones about it. But it's still believable that it would have these kind of like off corners that are a little bit more old-fashioned because, look, I'm old and I wanted to have references to what I find romantic about comic conventions is like in a musty old hotel where you're like going through back issues of comics and like that's, in tiny windowless rooms on the base level of a hotel. You don't find that much anymore. So I was kind of like trying, I didn't want to make it so anachronistic that it wouldn't be believable at all. But I wanted to kind of have my cake and eat it too and find something that had a big convention floor, but reasonably the characters could walk off, go to a separate area, and find kind of that like old style convention, which is where like the 18 up room is in the movie, for example. So it was kind of that, but also a combination of, and frankly, when you're making a modestly budgeted movie, you kind of have to go where the schedule allows. And so we were always working backwards, kind of retconning our schedule to around a convention that physically occurred in space and time during our production schedule. So, I mean, we were dancing around like 4 different conventions. And we actually shot some at Wizard World Austin, but it was mostly just B-roll, just extra footage that didn't involve the cast.
Oh, nice.
But it really just timed out that the Comicpalooza people were so gracious. They were geographically desirable. It was exactly the right type of convention as far as size, and it happened to be at the exact perfect time for our production. So it was a combination of all those elements kind of made it was the Goldilocks spot for us, Well,
I'm glad to hear that, and I'm sure a lot of Houstonians that are going to get to check out the film are going to be super excited because like, oh my God, I know where that is, or I was there, and just it's really cool. And that's one of those things a lot of people don't get, especially in Texas and in Houston, is having a lot of films being shot here. So that's awesome to bring to the table.
We did our best to not have too big of a footprint there. Just try to allow people to have naturalistic reactions around our actors. And it's a thing I've done before, especially my third time shooting a movie at a live Comic-Con. The previous 2 had been in Dallas. One was for the Slash short film, and then also one was for it was a test shoot for a completely different movie that never ended up getting made. But I have my experience now shooting at these live events, and it's a lot of fun.
When you guys are filming there, do people realize what's happening? Is it staged, or is it like you've got the camera rolling? And
well, I mean, one thing it's like now it's like so ubiquitous to see cameras at conventions because everybody has a YouTube channel, everybody's interviewing cosplayers, everyone's dancing around their shows. So even though we're a movie production and we have bigger equipment, like we strip down our cameras to the bare minimum essentials, like to be on them, like took the matte boxes off, took anything that made us look big away, and then had a very skeleton crew. So it reasonably, if you saw this, we made it blend in with like another YouTube video at that point. I did, maybe just a big budget YouTube video, and that was the goal. And it's funny, it's like people don't bat an eye anymore when they see cameras at conventions. It's so just a part of that world. It's like you can go on YouTube and type in Comic-Con and find out. I mean, endless stream of videos of people, doing stand-ups from Comic-Con and interviewing people and whatnot. So we were able to use that kind of common presence to our advantage. I mean, like, I think literally one time when I was selecting edits, when my editor and I were working together, I think there's maybe one time when we couldn't use a shot because somebody looked through the camera. I
mean, that's really impressive to think that, you've got this whole thing happening around you and you can be totally unaware of it, but that's really cool.
The culture now, it's like, you see people at, like people go to a rock concert or something and they're not even paying attention to the concert. They're looking through their phone at the concert, they're taping it. It's like, and we're using the decline of live society to our advantage now.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to roll with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun. I don't know. I mean, it's so cool to think, too, that you could be, showing up in this movie and you're just the guy eating a pizza in the background. So that's kind of fun.
Right, exactly.
Well, I think it comes across really great with the movie, and it's just such a different film that it has that great, unique feel to it that I think a lot of films lack. You know, everybody's used to the same formula and the same subject matter, and we know where this is going, but your film kind of takes us to a whole new place of growing up and exploring who you are and your sexuality and all that, and it's really neat. I like that about it.
I would say, much to the chagrin of a lot of distributors, all my films have kind of been an attempt to do something different that doesn't necessarily fit within the preordained boxes of storytelling. So, I don't know.
But I can imagine that it could be difficult, especially when you start laying out this is the subject matter of seeing a lot of people kind of go, I don't know if we want to go there.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's weird. I feel like once you see it, you see how there is a purity to it, and it's a very accessible film. I've had parents bring their children to see it, like their teenagers, and then I wasn't sure if this was a good idea, but now I strongly I was happy that we did this, and I've had multiple experiences where parents and their children came up to speak to me afterwards and tell me how much they appreciated it. That was very fulfilling for me.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. It's nice to know that we live in a society where people can be a little bit more open-minded about, let's see what happens, let's check it out before we make up our mind and get too judgy with everything.
Exactly.
You guys actually showed this film at South by Southwest this year. What was the reception like there?
That was amazing. It was great. We had such great audiences. We had such great crowds. They gave us extra screening. It was wonderful. Yeah, it was such a great premiere. I couldn't have asked for a better experience. Again, people just really getting what we were trying to do. Sometimes you wonder if people question your motives or why you do things. And it's been such a breath of fresh air to have people really understand why. And it's not just some cheap joke or that there was.
Yeah, it definitely takes an honest look at everything, which I liked.
Yeah.
Well, and my last question is for you: is your cast did such a great job? I mean, you had everybody from Michael Ian Black, Missy Pyle, you had the Teen Wolf star Michael Johnson in there, and all of these great characters. How did you go about pulling this cast together? In the past, I've written a lot for my friends who are and people in my peer group who are great actors, and obviously those are people in their late 20s all the way up to their early 40s, and this movie is mostly driven by teenagers, so I don't really hang out with a lot of teenagers. So we went to an amazing casting director out of Los Angeles, a guy named J.C. Cantu, and he's a very respected casting director, so he was getting a lot. And if he recommends a script to agents of actors, they're going to pay attention, and that's how we got this amazing slew of people. I mean, people came in to read for me who I read. Everyone I saw, I read. It was crazy. I'd never had that experience before. And when you work with a certain caliber of actor who do that's what they do for a living, it's you have to rise up to meet them. With Michael and Hannah, there was no resting on the laurels of the script I had written. They had questions, and they had very smart questions. I had to be able to answer those questions. So it's I had to rise up, and that was I appreciate that so much. And they were just such a joy to work with. And then you have more, I don't know, say journeyman actors, but people have been doing it for longer, like Michael Ian Black or Missy, who kind of came in later in the process. They are so professional that, Michael Ian Black came in pretty late in the game, but when he showed up, he was so insanely prepared. He had put so much thought into it, more than I ever would have expected. And just working with people at that caliber, it was an absolute it was a game changer for us. Well, I definitely think that with the combination with the great story, the awesome acting, you've really got something that I think a lot of fans are going to take notice of, and I know a lot of people are going to be getting a chance to check it out this weekend at Comicpalooza, and I highly recommend that you guys do so if you get a chance to see this film. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Clay. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I know some of our people will be there representing as well. I think there's a panel or something. Check out I think it's /the movie on Twitter. There'll be more information there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much. / check it out at Comicpalooza this weekend. It is going to be awesome. And thank you so much, Clay. This was great.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.